The the big question this morning is how much can tenants take with rental increases? We brought in expert property manager Cleo, been doing this a long, long, long time. Cleo, it must be a hard job at the moment.
Especially this time of year coming into Christmas. Everyone needs that extra money. It is a tough time to be in property management right now.
Do you ever get a landlord putting rent up and you turn around saying, no, 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 it's Christmas?
No, not so much. No, 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 it's Christmas. Look, if a client wants to put their rent up and we feel that the increase is above market value, therefore we wouldn't be able to re-let the property at that rent, we'd let them know that it's too high, just based on what's renting at the moment. Of course, if they still want it, we would have to send a 60-day notice to the tenant. However, we do work for the tenant as well as the owner, where we can reasonably suggest alternatives, perhaps downsizing if it's too high, putting them into a property that's more within their budget, things like that. We do try to help both the tenant and the owner in achieving their goals.
And do you find that is this how long have you been doing this for?
Over 15 years now.
And is this the most travel you've actually seen in rents through the whole, like the most increase in rents you've ever seen?
Definitely. When I first started in real estate, an increase typically was $5 to $10. 10 was like, whoa, that's a lot, for tenants. And your average 1 bedroom unit was $300 a week. So it was crazy times. And now we're seeing increases of over $100 per week, which is, I would not, in those days when I first started, I would not have believed it if you told me a rent increase could be $100, or more.
And I think what people sort of seem to forget is the asset value doubled, but the return on the asset didn't double. So there requires a little bit of catch up there, because to put it, I guess in basic terms, like if something was 500,000 for a two bedroom 10 years ago, and now that's $1 million, and the rents were sitting at 400 a week, the rents didn't go to 900 over that 10-year period. So there is a little bit of that coming into play as well, a bit of catch up for return on investment. With tenants out there, are you finding them, because Northern Beaches is probably not the cheapest place to live already, relative to different parts of Sydney? Are you finding we're losing people out of the Northern Beaches to go to other areas?
For sure. The amount of people that have gone up the coast of Queensland, that it is probably, and people I went to school with, that have grown up here all their lives, that have, sold or can't afford to rent here anymore. They've all, left the beaches for that quality of living. You can put all your money in your mortgage and all your money on rent, but you still want to enjoy, going to the beach, having a holiday maybe once a year, all that sort of stuff. So I guess that's what people are weighing up right now, for real.
It's interesting. I've been looking at people taking holidays this year, and I've been thinking, because everyone's having a really, really hard time with cost of living, be it rent, be it mortgage, be it whatever. And I thought it'll be interesting this year to see how many people actually end up traveling it as a result of that. So for me, that's one to watch, to see. But I think there's still a bit of a pent up demand anyway. So stay tuned. But Claire, back to rents. How long do you reckon it's going to go on for?
Who knows? It's all relative to interest rates with our landlords. I think a lot of the owners are or have been expected to come up with a lot of extra money for their investments and their mortgages, and that's being on set now to the tenants. We're also finding with rent increases, when we did, because you could only, after COVID, the law passed that you could only do one increase per year. So an owner has to decide only once per year exactly how this monetary, rent's going to help them, and then they have to wait a whole another year before they can revisit it unless they ask the tenant to move. So we were doing increases last year, which last year market rates were last year's market rates, and now this year's different. And some clients were like, well, you know, you only put it up $20 last year. I want to now put it up $60 because I didn't get enough last year. It's like, but the market last year compared to this year is completely different. That increase was relative to that market, and now our market is such now where there's, you know, not a lot of stock, and owners can ask for a lot more. So it is tricky doing a rent increase, because at the same time we understand tenants are hurting, and you know, they might not be getting paid more in their, you know, profession or work, and you know, they've got to find that extra money. But owners as well have to try and forecast the future for a whole year when they're on setting that increase.
So that was something that our friends in government imposed, just saying that we could put rent up once a year. So instead of a landlord traditionally, I think it's probably forced landlords to overshoot a little bit, rather than undershoot. Whereas before they're like, hey, you know, do what we can, and we'll put it off till later, maybe
Yeah.
6 months time. Whereas now the landlords have to make a decision for 12 months. So I'm seeing, and I would have thought as landlords, you're just going to give it a fair whack, because you're also looking at your costs, and what interest rates are going to be doing in the future as well. So I think owners are going, well, I'm going to get knocked for another couple of interest rate rises, so I'm going to sort of have to put my rent up that little bit more. I can't afford to sort of be conservative in my price setting. So yeah, it's everywhere you turn. And the thing that I struggle with most, Cleo, is that the landlord, or the term landlord, is their lords. And there's a connotation that the landlord is of a higher, is earning more than what a tenant would earn, purely just on you know, the inference, you know, like, oh, you know, when you say poor landlord, it sort of doesn't go together. Or when you say poor tenant, you go, okay, you know, that's, you know, I don't know. Like there seems to be more compassion against a tenant than a landlord, 100%. And I do have to say, in understanding the market and property, and how that wraps around, how property wraps around the economy, it's the biggest asset class in the country, by a long shot. And there's $10 trillion in property. It's big. But the cost of a landlord, and if people haven't broken down the numbers, and some people aren't numbers people, but a two-bedroom unit DY that's worth 800,000, or let's just say $1 million, that $1 million at a 6% interest rate is 60 grand a year. Generally, the banks are not really liking people on interest only. They're pulling them off. They've got them in principal and interest. So these guys are paying about probably 75 grand a year, for a unit. And when you break that down to your costs, the landlord's paying about $1,400 a week to supply that into the rental market. So you go and buy a unit for 800 grand or $1 million in DY, to supply that to a tenant, in DY, the cost just on interest alone is going to be around 14. Repayments alone is going to be about $1,400. Then strata water council, another couple $100. So it's about, even though the tenant's paying $700, the landlord's paying about $1,400. Even though the tenant's rent's gone up maybe $50 to $100, the landlord's interest payments have probably gone up $700 a week.
Yeah, when you put those numbers together, it's scary. It really makes you feel like I would rather be a tenant, to be honest. I was, a couple of years ago, we bought our first home just after COVID, and yeah, even just the pressure of mortgage and all of that sort of stuff, you know, maintaining a home, paying for maintenance, gardens, all that sort of stuff. You know, it was a lot cruisier being a tenant, let's just say. You know, relatively, like you said, council, even just council rates, they've gone up so much.
Yep.
You know, and I do know our landlords and clients are feeling that as well. And you know, if you're a tenant and you've got an increase and you can't afford it, you want to negotiate with the owner. Some owners are in a position, some aren't, but you know,
Yep.
we're always here to be your voice. So if you want to ask for that little bit less, you can only do 30 or 40 is your max. Put it in an email to your property manager. We always put it to the owner. And if your owner is able to do that and they're, that works for them and their figures and numbers, then, we can facilitate that as well. So.
And you know what I'm starting to see people do now, Claire, it's a good point, was share homes. So now I'm seeing, they're picking their favorite family member,
Yeah,
friend,
mum and dad
or
again.
yeah, right. So they're actually getting something really cool. So they're paying a little bit more, getting bigger and pulling a family member in and then chopping that rent. So another option that people have and that I've seen exercising is sharing a home, getting a monster house and pulling mum and dad in on it, or pulling an uncle or auntie in on it or something, or friends, another family, and just having getting a baller house, and it's actually costing them less.
Yeah, it makes sense. You've got a live-in babysitter if you've got children. It's perfect.
And you're sharing food costs, you're sharing insurance, you're sharing a lot of stuff. So it's interesting. Before we go, I do want to say it's always something. If it's right, if it's not your rent going up, it's COVID. If it's not COVID, it's the GFC. If it's not GFC, it's a recession. It's just always something. So it just seems like, meh, you know, you just keep rolling, and we are all in it together.
Yeah.
What concerns me is, I think, when you're isolated and you're alone and you're feeling bad, and I think that's dangerous. But I think the nice thing is we're not isolated, we're not alone. We are all in it together. Be it interest payments higher, be it rents going up, be it living costs. So there's something warming about that.
Yeah, totally. We're all a community. The Northern Beaches people are always, we're resilient, that's for sure. And yeah, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, and we do what we can do to stay here.
Yep. So everyone sit tight, work hard, and let's get through it.
That's it. And Merry Christmas. See you next week.
And before I go, HSC results this morning, I think 9 o'clock. Good luck to all the little chickens out there, and especially my little chicken.
Yes, good luck. All that hard work.
See you, Cleo. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.